Hi, we're back today. I'm Elizabeth McGinnis, and we're on EM Psychotherapy. And today, my guest is Allyson Cates, who is an associate in the marriage and family therapy space in California. And we're just going to talk a little bit about what the mental health field, what's going on in the mental health field, and specifically in California, and who she's working with. Hi, Allyson. It's great to see you.
Hello, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So just to be transparent, we work together. So can you tell the audience a little bit about like how we work together?
You're my supervisor. Since I am an associate, I lean on support from a licensed professional, which is you. We meet weekly. We talk about clients, maybe a theme of challenges that might be going on. We talk about skills, interventions, whatnot.
You are a supervisee right now, and you've been doing this for about a year and a half. Is that correct?
Great question. I think it's been closer to 3 years.
3 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you tell the audience a little bit who you've worked for and what supervision's been like for you over the course of those 3 years, how it's evolved?
When I first started, I was still in grad school. And so you start your final year of grad school and a lot of imposter syndrome of, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. But I got to work with some school-based programs and I really wanted to work with kids. So that was awesome. And they knew that I was still in grad school and they provided a lot of supports around that. We had individual supervision where it was just one-on-one focus with the supervisor to talk about all of the things of the stress of being a therapist, stress of being a trainee therapist early on in your career, really helping to solidify skills and confidence level and all of that. And then we also had group supervision where we talked about specific interventions, heard from other clinicians who were also trainees, also experiencing imposter syndrome or just struggling with some different clients. And then after grad school, I feel like that's where it really it got, I don't know, better or more solid in my confidence is that okay, I've graduated now, went and worked with a community mental health agency, and that was very it was hard, but it was so good at the same time. I learned a lot. I felt very supported by the clinicians that I had around me. And in that group, we were all on the same journey, but different levels. And so it was nice to have people to lean on for, oh, what'd you do with this kind of situation or this kind of family? And then here we are now. And it's been 6 months or so since we've been doing this private practice work. And it's been what a difference, but also really good too. It's nice.
What is some of the differences you've noticed between doing community agency work versus doing private practice?
That's a great question. I would say that the work-life balance, work-life balance is much better in a sense that I'm not feeling so stressed all of the time. And part of that is honing in on the population that I want to work with, which I loved working in the community mental health field, but it was just draining at times because there's so much going on for these families and these kids. And had such like a big heart to want to support them in that, but there wasn't a lot left for me to, I don't know, fill up myself. And so that's when I noticed maybe I need to transition out for a time at least. And yeah, I think the level of challenges maybe or presenting problems, symptoms, struggles, all of that is different. And part of it is because I'm more tailoring my clientele in the private practice, just as much of a struggle, but it's not.
Let's
Yeah.
take a segue into the next question, which is you are starting out a little bit, maybe 3 years of experience in grad school. And so when you look at the education people are getting and you're looking at the kids, whether it was through the community or in private practice that you're working with now, what do you think is the state of the mental health field? And you really only have exposure to California right now,
Yeah.
but in California, what do you think is the state of the education and the field itself?
Yeah, that's a good question. I do notice that it's a lot more destigmatized in talking about mental health challenges Something I loved to see when I was working at the schools was that there were a lot of school counselors on campus, right? Even the teachers, they're building in that social emotional learning aspect of it. So talking about emotions and like anxiety, feeling really sad. So it's definitely something that we're talking about more, and it's easier to share, or like it doesn't feel as shameful to share that you're struggling or you're having a hard time, and it's a little bit more normalized. But then on the other side too is that it's still a work in progress. People still have those feelings of it's not that bad, or I'm not that crazy or something. And so still having those shameful thoughts of it's not okay to be struggling or it's not okay to ask for help. We're still dealing with that.
When you talk to your friends, your family, like the people in your personal life, how do they respond to this idea of mental health or the idea of going? Is your family like all about therapy, or what's been your experience about that?
It's so funny because when I was first sharing with my family that I wanted to be a therapist and I love sitting with people in their shit that they're going through and just really supporting them, so often I would get, you really want to do that? Are you sure? Like, you really want to hear people complain about everything and talk about all their problems? Like, that just seems like really depressing or a lot. And I'd have to be like, no, like, I love that. I love sitting with people. And yeah, it's going to be challenging, but they're going to teach me skills and whatnot to keep my own stuff separate from theirs. And yeah, it can be hard sometimes, but overall, being a therapist, I think it like really fills me up. Yeah, just looking back on that, it now my family, since I've been doing this, everyone has shifted their perspective and become a lot more supportive in mental health things. And so that's been awesome to see. But definitely, even just within the last 10 years, when I was like, hey, I want to study psychology and be a therapist, they're like, why?
What about going to therapy? Have you made an impact on your family in terms of their willingness to explore that, or were they just completely already open to it? And so it was like, not, you didn't
Oh,
notice a shift.
yeah, no, definitely my pursuit of becoming a therapist has softened some of that, the difficulty in going and asking for help. Because, yeah, we've been taught to tough it out. It's not that bad. You can keep going. You're being productive or you're getting things done. So you must not be struggling that much. But having me be a person to share some compassion and give some, I don't know, support or tips on like reframing mental health and how to talk about it, all of that. Yeah, some of my friends and family have gone to therapy since that.
It sounds like you really enjoyed it. Like you said, it fills your cup and you really enjoy hearing about it and giving tips and helping people be more vulnerable and not have to tough it out all by
Yeah.
themselves. What is the population that brings you the most joy to work with right now? And knowing it might change and evolve, but like just right now, who do you like working with and why?
It's been the most fun to work with college kids or like college, grad school, the emerging adult range. And it's fun, I think, because there's so much pressure around that time to make the right decision. You're in college, you are going to be choosing a major and choosing a career path and all of that. And there's so much pressure on it. But at the same time, they're just becoming adults. So it's that possibility of the future and what it could be is there. It's very hopeful sometimes. Sometimes it's pretty stressful. Oh my gosh, what if I don't make the right career choice? What does that do for my future? But overall, like it's pretty fun. And they're still in that less jaded side of life. They're not as they were kids, right? Minors, not that long ago. And now they're becoming adults. And so they're shifting in that. But there's still a little bit of lightheartedness when you talk with them. So, yeah, that's been the most fun.
2024 is an interesting year for young adults. This being the first election a lot of them will ever vote in. I know when I turn on the news feed, the first thing I see is a bunch of college campuses and nonsense that's going on there. Nonsense just being a word to describe chaos,
Yeah.
right? And strong feelings. Is that showing up in your room? Are you seeing that in that clientele? And how do you respond to that?
Yeah. I see a lot of, sadly, more of a hopeless outlook on the political future, or like the state of the country, which also, yeah, because they went from having no power to now they do have power to vote in this election and they do have some power to make a difference or have a say in policies. And they're also stuck too with the older people that are like in place and doing all of these things. And I think they're even trying to figure out what they believe. They're going to college and they're learning all of these different perspectives, different ideas, and they're trying to form their own opinions on things. I think this generation has a lot more compassion than other generations have, in that they really are caring about people in general, how people are treated, how we treat the world, right? A lot of the frustrations around what's going on in the world shows up in that they didn't have a voice and now they do. So now they're all in on showing up in that way.
It sounds hard. And you're a human being too. You have
Mm,
family, you have political beliefs. This is an election year for you too.
yeah.
Somebody shows up in your office, one of these young adults who are having really strong feelings, and you don't agree with them or it doesn't align with what you believe. What do you do?
Uh, my MO is usually to take a deep breath if I'm noticing like something is really bothering me. And that's my own like therapeutic skill, right? Because ultimately it's about them, it's not about me. So I'm not there to turn them into my side, right? It's whatever's going to work for them. But building in that compassion piece as well. I see that so often in my clients, is that they either have a hard time being compassionate to themselves, which is usually the big one, or accepting compassion from others, or sharing compassion for others, helping them to work through, talk through their own ideas on things and what do they not like, where are they struggling with these, whether they're Republican or Democrat, independent, whatever it is. And what narrative do they have about the other side, and helping them to see that they are also people. It's just so emotionally charged sometimes when we talk about politics. You always want to shy away from it. But in therapy, we don't shy away from the hard stuff.
That sounds really great. So they're coming in, they're working with you. This is who you love working with. Do you only work with young people or you work with anybody else?
Yeah, I work with the adults as well. I don't want to say older adults, but like adults, people that are not young adults anymore. Maybe they're young at heart. I see that a lot too. And I've been really enjoying that, leaning on that compassion piece too, of talking about compassion for self, others, receiving compassion. I think that has been definitely something that the adults group need as well, because they grew up with so many shoulds and you should do this and you shouldn't do this. And so there's so many just negative thoughts of self that they have growing up in that. And then also too, mental health wasn't as okay to talk about when they were growing up. And now it's becoming more okay. Even that takes a lot of courage to come forward when they're an adult.
What are some of the limitations you see of the mental health field right now that you're just starting to become aware of?
That is a good question. I think that it's difficult for people who are needing support to find the support that will work for them. That I know, obviously, I'm a therapist and I commune with therapists, that there's a lot of this out here, but to find the people that fit for you as a client can be really hard sometimes. And sometimes that even makes them not pursue therapy. Like they've tried so often, or the therapists that they've reached out to are full. And so then it just becomes a thing of, it's fine, I'll just tough it out on my own. Like I've dealt with it this far, whatever.
That sounds really painful and it sounds like it really affects you. What would you tell people who are having that struggle right now? What would you want them to know?
Yeah, there are like resources. There are so many therapists out there that can help, right? And it's hard to find those people. Even I have people come and say, I had so many therapists that I left a voicemail to, and then I never heard back from them, which is like really disappointing to hear. Or they all said they were full or something like that. There are resources to find us therapists who are available, like Psychology Today, which is a great resource. It's a website, but you can filter on there to find a therapist who works in either, you can filter it based on gender, insurance accepted, areas that they focus on. So anxiety, depression, relationship issues, whatever. If you're looking for a particular theory approach, you can filter that too. There are resources. It's just if you don't know about them, then it's hard to find them sometimes.
What would you want them to know about you? Yeah, anybody, our audience, the population you like working with, what do you want them to know about you if they were to call you up?
Ooh. I talked a lot about compassion. I think that's very much what I ground myself in, both personally, but then also in therapy too, that a lot of the time I have clients coming to me and they have all of these shame thoughts or the shoulds. You should do this, you shouldn't do that. What we talked about before too. And I try to just have a very compassionate, warm approach. I'm not going to be judging them. Whatever they're feeling, whatever they're experiencing, that's okay. We can talk about it. Yeah, just trying to build that compassion piece specifically for themselves. I think that's like the one that everybody needs more of is to have more compassion for themselves because we can have so much understanding and compassion for other people that are struggling. And it's really easy to think of it in that way. But then when we think of ourselves, we're so much harder on ourselves. We're like our own worst critic.
What do you do? See, it sounds like compassion is important. It's come up several times. It's really important to you. It's where you ground your work.
Mhm.
What do you do in your own personal life to take care of yourself and have compassion for yourself?
I have my cat, love my cat. So I love to allow myself to take a break. Putting it that way is not just to take a break, but to allow myself to take a break, allow myself to rest, to notice that I'm feeling just empty or just very overwhelmed or drained, to acknowledge those feelings, tell myself it's okay to feel that way, and then to do something about it to help myself feel better. Sometimes that's watching my comfort shows or like cheesy TV shows or movies, talking with
Let's
friends and
get a little
family.
personal here. What is a cheesy TV show that you really like?
Oh, I love watching Psych and Monk. Those are my go-to rewatches that if I just need some laughter or just something on to decompress.
Finally, where can people find you?
You can find me at EM Psychotherapy, hello, with Liz, yes, or at AllysonCates.com. That'll be direct to me. You may come across me on Psychology Today, like we talked about. All the links will be in the bio, wherever the bio will be.
Sounds great. Any closing thoughts before we sign off for the day, Allyson?
Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun. I think too, even for myself, it's stressful, right? Anxiety inducing to do something like this and talk about things more. So this was a great way to explore some of these ideas and get more comfortable with it. So thanks.
Thank you for being our first guest on this channel. It's new for me, and one of the things I preach to my friends, which they hate, my clients, and myself is like, just give it a shot, give it a try. And that's what we're doing here. That's what's going to happen with it, but you won't know until you do it. So that's what we're doing here.
Yeah.
Thank you for being our first experiment.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Bye, guys.